You're listening to the Wayward Atheist Podcast. Hello, everyone. If this is your first time listening, thank you for joining us. This is a podcast where borders collide, where the gloves are off, where filters are removed, where we tell you exactly what we think about the news, politics, and religion. The Wayward Atheist Podcast is dedicated to free thought, reason, and the pursuit of truth. You can follow us on Twitter at Wayward Atheist, on Spreaker, Stitcher, and iTunes. You can email us at waywardatheistpodcast@gmail.com or leave us a comment on our Facebook page. So without further ado, let's get on with the show.
This week's episode of The Wayward Atheist has been brought to you by the Crafty Freethinker. Tired of boring old jewelry and charms? Why not wear a motherfucking T-Rex around your neck? Or a pendant of the Scarlet A? Handmade, secular, and science jewelry from the Crafty Freethinker gives you a nice alternative to boring old jewelry. Find the Crafty Freethinker on Etsy and Amazon. Links are in the show notes, or simply Google the Crafty Freethinker as one word. Hello and welcome to the Wayward Atheist. I'm Dave, aka the Great White North.
I'm Corinne, a.k.a. The Yank.
I'm Big Black Day Dave.
And I'm Ed, the Everyday Atheist.
And tonight we are joined by
Michael Smith.
And where do we know you from, Michael Smith?
I'm from the Poorly Summarized podcast, is where I'm assuming you know me from. That's assuming you guys listen to the show.
That was very poorly
may or
summarized.
may not be true. Thank you. I'm always insulted when people tell me how accurate they think my summaries are.
Yeah, you're doing a bad job.
Thank you. You know, it's a comedy news show. We are not an atheist show, but we do have a skeptical bent. I am certainly an atheist, but
you have a theist on your show, right? Because he was trying to get Conrad to go back to the faith.
That was me. That was me.
You. Okay, that was you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, no. Justin isn't as public about his personal beliefs, but I would certainly call Justin a skeptic. He's the smart one.
Go ahead, listen to a few episodes, and you guys have always managed to sneak atheism in there somehow, even though you don't like prolongly talk about it. It always manages to sneak in there. So it's always confusing whether you guys are an atheist podcast or just a pop culture podcast.
I would say I wouldn't be surprised if over 50% of our listeners are in the atheist skeptical community. I've actually specifically kind of tried to target that demographic and reached out a lot of those people on the Twitter sphere, and so I don't know. It's a subject I enjoy. So I've only been a open atheist for a few years, but I was a closet atheist, fully active Mormon for years prior to that.
So before we get into like the full interview with you,
are you trying to get me to stop talking about myself? Because I don't want to stop that.
I'm going to tell a story now.
It's next
and then
to,
you're gonna
next to
laugh.
atheism. My atheism. My second first favorite is me.
Hold on.
Well, Dave likes to think that he runs the show, so just indulge him for us, please.
All right, fine, Dave. I'll shut up.
I am the host. The talent will
you.
leave. That's it. David Eastmond walks away. Just kidding. No. So as the co-host on this show know, I live in a townhouse, which is, I guess you guys have townhouses in the U.S., like row houses? Yes,
row houses and townhouses are different things. You fucking hoser.
Anyways, they're rows of houses, whatever. And like the block that I live on, we have like, just say from A to H, and then, the next row will be that. So, I have no Muslim family living in my section of the block. So I go out on my front porch to have a smoke, and it was garbage the night before. And in Canada, we have 3 different recycling bins. We have paper, we have glass and plastic, and then we have the compost, like your food, your eggshells, whatever. And it's a green bin. They're free from the city, but what you have to do is you have to call the city. They mail you a coupon. You take it to Canadian Tire, you give them the coupon, and then they give you the green bin for free. Anyways, I'm outside, I'm having a smoke, and where the communal garbage is, it's right in front of my townhouse. So I look and I don't see my green bin. And then I hear plastic wheels rolling on asphalt. And I look and I see this black figure fucking running away with my green bin. So I start chasing after this black figure, and I'm expecting to get over there and find a burly middle-aged man or whatever. And I get her, and so the figure dips in between the space between the row of townhouses, and I yell, "Hey!" The figure turns around, and it's a fucking ninja. There she is in her hijab, in full black ninja suit. And I'm kind of taken aback for a second because
were you a little disappointed because you really wanted to whoop some ass?
I'll whoop her ass anyways.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Totally joking.
No, he's not at all. At all.
I was taken aback at first because I'm not I would never think that a woman in a hijab would be trying to steal your stuff. It just doesn't cross my mind, right? So
Sure.
Anyways, I say to her, I said, "That's mine." And she goes, "That's yours?" And I said, "Yeah, it's mine. See, townhouse E, I put it on the side." And then she looks at me and I said, "That's stealing." And she goes, No, it's not stealing." And I go, "Is it yours?" And she goes, "No." And I said, "Okay, well, it's mine and you took it. That makes it stealing." She said, "No, it's not stealing." I said, "It's fucking stealing." And she's like arguing with me whether or not she stole something. What I wanted to say to her, but I'm not super racist. What I wanted to say to her was, or that inconsiderate, was, what the fuck? Because she was like clearly an immigrant from, like, she was either from Sudan or one of the other ones because she was more African American looking. I wanted to say to her, like, what do you think that they would do in your country if you fucking stole from them? Just admit you stole. I'm not going to do anything to you. Give me my fucking green bin back so I can put my damn recycling in it.
She didn't offer an argument as to why it wasn't stealing?
No, she just said it wasn't stealing. This is
because I said so. Because stealing is wrong.
Yes.
So it's not stealing.
It's not stealing.
I would have just called her a cunt and walked away.
Here's my theory. It's not stealing because I'm an infidel.
I think she's just afraid that you'll cut off her hand or something, David.
I just think...
Nah, you know what? Listen, Kafir, yeah, I think you're just an infidel, so she's allowed to take whatever she wants from you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an infidel, and she can do whatever she wants because, all infidels must die.
I wouldn't steal from you. I want you to know that. Well, if I stole from you, I would maybe steal from you, but I don't up to it.
You know what would be totally badass is if she stole it, and as she was running away, she was yelling "Allah Akbar" and was fucking running away.
Can I tell you guys a quick related story because I like to one up stories?
No.
Sure.
Okay.
No.
Go ahead, Michael.
All right, one up.
So I'm in my living room. We lived in my wife's parents' place for a year while they weren't living there when I first graduated. And anyway, we're in this. It's a big house, and I'm watching this. This matters. I'm watching Walking Tall with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and
Green just came.
And I'm feeling so. I'm just feeling it's like this revenge, action movie, and I'm feeling the pump, right? And I'm just sitting barefooted, eating some Cheez-Its and watching Walking Tall. And my wife just goes, "Mike, there is someone in the house. Like she's like, Mike, there's an intruder in the house." And I was like, "Motherfucker, yeah, I'm gonna whoop some ass."
You weren't.
And she's like, "He just ran out," and I run outside and I'm just sprinting, and I see him, and he turns the corner and he looks at me. And as soon as he looked at me, I could tell he was a little disabled mentally. And I was immediately just crestfallen because I was just hoping I was going to beat the fuck out of some bro, but instead
what happened if you got out there?
It was like a disabled kid. So I grabbed him right as he's jumping over the fence. And I, called the police. But apparently, so we lived right next door. It's our parents live in this gated community right next to this like boys rehabilitation center, or like juvie kind of thing. And one of the kids had broken in, slept in the Corvette all night, and he was sneaking food out because we know something. Like, I swear I just had a candy bar right here. And so he came and he stole our chargers to charge his phone. So anyway, a kid spent the night in the garage, and I chased him down and didn't whoop his ass. So I'm a good guy. I didn't get into an argument about him as to whether or not it was morally appropriate of him to break into our home, though. Like you. So we are different in that. The story is different a little. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think
Corvette.
I know you're the guest and all, but I give Dave the point on that.
Okay, so you thought what could I have done to maybe improve the story? Like maybe a couple
Been
more
funnier.
punchlines?
Make it interesting.
Been
Okay,
funnier.
just a little-
I was
just
way
add a little-
funnier.
Okay.
My telling of the story.
Add like a side story of like zombie rape porn or something. I mean, be creative.
Okay, a little more. Okay, like lying creative. Okay. Well, I'll work on the story, and we'll just have.
So what the way that I would have handled it is I would have said that he was an MMA fighter, and that you had to grab a bat, and when you chased him down, he tried to tackle you, and you smacked him in the head with the bat. And that would have made it so much more funny.
But then I needed a weapon to win. Yeah, so it would make me look.
But he's an MMA fighter, so it makes sense that you need a bat.
So next time I'll tell the story about the time that I beat up an MMA fighter with a bat.
With a bat.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
Oh, wait. What about the rape porn?
No.
Zombie? You mean the zombie porn?
Well, zombie rape porn, whatever. Can't that be worked in somewhere?
I could have been watching Walking Dead and porn simultaneously.
Can you do the Rick Grimes voice? And you're like, Coral. Can you do
No,
this?
I can't. No. I'm not good with accents, man. Every time I try to do one, it ends up sounding Irish, no matter what it is.
Oh, do that. Korean will come.
Okay. Great.
Harry came once. I mean.
Oh, already. That was.
You mentioned The Rock. You mentioned The Rock. It's pretty
Okay.
instantaneous. It's like,
The
The
Rock.
Big Bang happened, and like the explosion happened. It was
he's
like
the
a
ultimate
nanosecond, and there was
human being.
all of matter. You can just say The Rock, and it happens.
I have to admit, like, I'm definitely like clenching my legs. Yeah.
Yeah. See, told you. Didn't say this. The Rock. No more clenching. It opens. That's it.
Whoa. This is a normal conversation.
Oh yeah,
Around here it is.
From my rock fascination.
One of my good friends who we had on my show recently is working on a movie with The Rock.
Shut your mouth.
He's just writing it.
Oh, where is it? The one they're recording in Savannah? Because I missed him in Savannah. I totally tried to stalk him.
Did you know that he is the highest paid actor? He made $65 million last year.
Oh.
You know how he could probably just say, give me $10,000 and I'll show you my dick. I would pay it.
That would be pretty low for him.
What if he had a micro penis?
Could do it.
What if you paid $10,000 and he had a micro penis?
That would be the end of the road for me.
Would you off yourself?
Yes. I would move to Canada and get assisted suicide.
I don't think you can appear in WWE and a Speedo and have a micro penis.
It's called a jock, David. They all wear jocks. You don't want to be kicked in the pills.
If one of them
fake
does
kicked in the
that,
pill.
smash right in there without a cup, yeah, I think that would hurt.
This week we're speaking with Michael Smith, co-host of the Poorly Summarized podcast. Apart from podcasting, Michael is involved in the art and architectural world. He lives in Salt Lake City, Utah, and is a former Mormon. Having left the faith 2.5 years ago, Mike now calls himself a strident atheist. Check out the Poorly Summarized podcast at poorlysummarized.com. All right, Mike, why don't you tell us more about yourself and describe your religious upbringing?
Sure. Well, I come from some deeply rooted pioneer stock. My family.
What are you, a horse?
This isn't a laughing matter. We're talking about my religious background right now.
Okay.
We'll save the
Sorry,
horse,
I thought we were talking
save the
about your
horse
dick
jokes
size.
for.
I thought we were talking about your dick size horse.
No, my great grandfather was converted to Mormonism in Europe and came across the plains with the pioneers, and he was a polygamist. And so, yeah, they're super Mormon background. Just a fun side note is that was just my great grandfather. My grandfather was born in 1880. My grandfather died in 1931. My father was born in 1924. So I'm not very many generations removed from that, even though I'm relatively young. But yeah, so I grew up stereotypically Mormon. I went on a Mormon mission to Southern California. I was Spanish speaking, so I got a language out of that. And but none of you here were Mormon, right?
Edward was, and his mission was in Southern California.
Yeah, Ventura, California.
Oh, I was Carlsbad.
Okay.
I finished in 2000.
Did you know that there's a Carlsbad right outside of where I live?
I did not know that.
Well, there is.
But I feel like a special connection with you now that I didn't have earlier.
I saw the look you were giving me. I saw that. Twinkle in your eye, bulge in your pants. And he's showing us.
It's going to show us.
Yeah.
He does, in fact, have a horse cock.
Keep your pants on, Dave, because
I'm actually not. Yeah, there's no proof yet that I'm wearing pants. So anyway, I was Mormon. I was pretty active Mormon, but then a lot of Mormons left Mormonism. Edward, I think you had come across some like literature, like CES letter or stuff that discusses the complicated history of Mormonism, right?
I did that after I left the church.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, because in my case, I just started reading a lot of philosophy in my undergrad, and I kind of had and still have a dilettantish interest in it. And it wasn't like I encountered anything damning. It was just after a while, the universe, trying to understand the universe, became more and more complicated for me as I included God into the equation. Where I think for a lot of atheist folks, God becomes the magical solution to any of their questions and adds to them clarity. But to me, it just added more complication. And so as the universe made less sense to me with God, I just slowly faded from belief. And then I just realized, I just sort of realized I was no longer a believer, even though I was practicing. And I just didn't know how to leave. But there was still, even though there was that sort of gradual transition, there were still moments within, where I came across information that shocked me. And I think the real kick to the stomach, because let me backtrack for a second, leaving Mormonism, and I think any fundamentalist religion, is scary, right? It's, you've got your family, you don't want to disappoint your family, your friends, your whole social network is often tied into the religion. And so it's, there's a moment when you certainly feel like it's not in your best interest to leave. So you're looking for reasons to stay. And so in my case, I was like, you know what, this is probably not true, but I genuinely enjoyed attending church and I had some great friends, and I thought, why not? But I remember when I read that Joseph Smith had 35 wives and that 11 of them were married to other men, and that a few of them were 14, or a couple of them were 14. And that he had told them that an angel visited him with a sword and said that if they didn't marry him or / have sex with him, that he would be smitten or killed by the sword. I felt like I got kicked in the stomach. Like it just like I just realized when I came across that, even though I was pretty emotionally done with belief, I realized like that was the last straw. I was like, there is no way this is true. Like there's just. Like that was my last thread. So when I lost that was that was it. But after that moment, I stayed a practicing Mormon for another 3 years, and then finally, why? Yeah. Well, it was so. My wife largely was. She was still a practicing Mormon,
it's
and I.
It's
and we also we adopted my little girl through LDS Family Services, and these biological parents entrusted us with.
Wait, LDS Family Services?
Yes, they don't do this any longer, but they you adopt. It was an adoption agency, and it's
okay. So they're not actually like government family services.
No, it's LDS Family Services is an adoption agency run by the LDS Church officially, and so adoption normally costs $30,000. We did it through LDS Family Services, and it was $5,000, or $6,000, I don't know, something like that.
It's super cheap when you steal the babies from Mexico.
It wasn't that. No, it was that's not how it actually typically works. They're usually.
I'm just joking around. I understand.
I don't get jokes.
I can tell.
I'm very,
I can tell
very
by
serious.
the blank look.
Well, Dave doesn't tell very good jokes.
I thought maybe that was a thing that he was aware of that I wasn't aware of. You just never know with Mormonism if it's a joke or if it's serious. That's a game. Maybe a segment we can start.
I think the podcast is over. Interview.
Anyway.
No, just kidding. So you adopted.
So we adopted, and I certainly felt a certain like they entrusted us with their baby with the expectation that she would be raised LDS, so much so that if we had divulged to them that we weren't going to be LDS, which I didn't necessarily think at the time, that they wouldn't have given us the child. So I felt a certain burden to raise my child LDS, and so I don't know, I felt a little trapped. But then after my daughter was like 1 or so, I realized no, I can't raise my little girl into a religion that tells her that she is unequal to a man, that men are privileged. I just couldn't raise her in a religion that privileges.
So fair enough that you adopted her through them. You're the one that's raising her. You're the one that loves her.
Of course, and that's the thing. What I realize is that it's my job to give her the best life I can, and I realize that I would be giving her a better life. Or at least the way I saw it, I would give her a better life. Outside of Mormonism.
Well, you're gonna raise her to think that she's equal. So you are giving and treating her like she's equal. So you are giving her a better life, 100%.
But
I'd like to think so. I mean, a lot of that is, I think, a little difficult to quantify. I think there's scenarios where one's life could be better off in a fundamentalist religion than outside of it, depending on the circumstances.
I don't know how many of our shows do you listen to. I've maybe believed in God for a couple of years before I was 8, but I've been an atheist since then. So
no, I think a lot of children that aren't Mormon in Utah, I think that's less of an issue specifically where I live in Utah. It's like we have the mayor of Salt Lake City is a lesbian, but I think there are some places where children have a harder time.
Okay, I get what you mean now.
Yes, and they have a harder time socializing and fitting in, and there can be serious consequences
because of where you live.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All I'm suggesting is that scenarios exist when that a child could have a better life within a religion than without. So I'd like to think that I'm not in that situation, but it's really hard to say. I try not to believe that just because I've made a decision means it was the best decision. All I know is that ultimately I felt like I didn't have a choice, and that I no longer knew how I could be a morally serious human being and remain Mormon.
Now, there's a procedure to formally, what's the word, resign from the church, or have you done that?
Formally, I have not, and that's I get asked that question a lot. It's a good question, and it's. Let me answer that question with an anecdote. I have a mole on my leg. I'm not going to show you it, and I'm slightly concerned.
Aww.
I'm slightly concerned. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm slightly concerned that it's cancerous, and I haven't gone to the doctor just because I haven't gotten around to making a phone call and setting an appointment. That just is a hassle. So.
But if you think it might be cancerous, it's got to be caught sooner.
Yeah. No.
Just go.
Yeah,
Wait,
I know, right?
Where do you live again? Because I'll make you go.
I imagine it's not, but I'm just saying it's this, mole thing.
I have a way simpler way of saying it. I don't give a fuck. That's what you should just say. Because I don't fucking care. They can have their little imaginary book over there with my name in it, and I'll live my life over here.
Yeah, but if at some point I feel like it gets annoying, I will go ahead and take care of it. There's this attorney on Reddit, ex-Mormon Reddit, that he does everything for free. You just send him your information and he'll take care of it. I just just something I haven't gotten around to. But I'll tell you, I'm not a sentimental person, and for a lot of people, I think there's a certain catharsis for them that I don't feel I need for them to go through the process of formally resigning. Like it's a moment, it's an event, it's maybe quasi achievement. I'm just not that type of person. So
okay, so wait. I'm sorry. I have to ask this.
Please ask it. I can take it.
So you're still technically a Mormon, like in the church.
Well, sure. I mean, I'm in the.
So you could get us magic underwear.
I think
you
I have
still
to
have magic underwear.
You need to act.
You know, I just found some in one of my dressers that like.
Can we see the magic underwear?
Can you go get the magic underwear?
Yeah.
Please.
I mean,
can you put it on?
Well,
no,
I'll get it, but all I have is this is an undershirt that it will look just like the one I'm wearing right now.
Okay, never mind.
Like, so you won't be able to.
See
it's just got markings. It has markings on it.
I want to see the onesie.
Oh no!
Okay,
so
here,
the onesie.
Here, I have a series.
Okay.
That was serious.
You're
just obsessed with seeing me in my underwear. I'll show you if you just want to see me.
No, I'm obsessed with magic underwear.
Ask. Okay.
When you left, when you first left the church, I've often heard other people that have left Mormonism say that they sent people around to try to get you to come back, and that they would come and knock on your door and like kind of almost harassing you. Did you experience any of that?
I've been very fortunate. There's a couple reasons for that. I think I live in a kind of near university, and so a lot of people in my what we call a ward or congregation, they are college students and they're coming and going, and so for all everybody knows, a lot of them I just kind of moved, right? They just don't think my absence isn't quite as noticed. I also didn't live. I only went to church for about 6 months in my current congregation, so I didn't create a lot of relationships, and also I just don't have the kind of personality that
you're always ready to whoop some ass.
Yeah, I'm saying it's like I'm a
like,
polite guy, but I'm like most like none of my family members, even the really Mormon ones, haven't really tried to talk me out of anything because I'm not. I don't oblige people, I think, the way that others do, and that's fine if people do. I'm just saying, like I would cut people out of my life if they became a problem in trying to make me feel guilty about that. I would.
Good for you, man.
I put my name to get removed from the records. I'm still waiting on my letter for 10 years, so I have to go see if I can get that. But the second point is, when I left Mormonism, I still have them every now and then come to my home, try to get me to come back. But after the last visit, I think I'm blacklisted. But.
I wouldn't be rude to people if they came over, though. That's a weird thing. It's like this weird. I don't know if you were rude or like I wouldn't bother getting in debates, but I just don't. I don't beat around the bush, and so I probably wouldn't be the type where they'd be like, "Oh shit, we're not talking to this guy again." But like I wouldn't humor them. I will say this though, I have a home teacher that talks to me. Do you know what a home teacher is, friends?
I do.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I lied. I totally lied.
Home teachers within Mormonism, you're usually assigned 3 families and you visit them once a month. Usually you share a spiritual message and you just see how they're doing. It's kind of a nice program, I guess, whatever. But my home teacher is in contact with me, and I am okay with that because he's like super cool. He's like cooler than I am, and I am concerned that if I get my name removed, he won't still talk to me because he's won't need to do his own teaching. So he's like he's just like a super cool dude.
Bit of a crush on him, do you?
Yeah, I know, totally. We had him. He's so cool. We had him on our show. He's a meditation and mindfulness instructor, and he's really smart and charming, and he is sexy. I think many of you
are so crushing right now. You should.
I would.
You have a look in your eye that you didn't have a look when you talked about your wife.
Yeah. No, I'm equally attracted to both of them.
Okay.
It's a great segue to tell us about the Poorly Summarized podcast. What's going on with that? How did you get that started? What's it about?
Okay, well, it's how we got it started. I mean, so my buddy and I, we're friends from Los Angeles. Or my co-host Justin Eakins, his wife was getting her PhD at UCLA in political science while I was getting my master's in architecture, and we became friends because, like, at church, we met at church, and we were kind of attracted to each other's. I guess Mormon edginess. The Mormon edginess is just being
edginess.
Wow. So you're an architecture?
It's yeah.
Can I? Sure. Awesome.
What?
I build shit.
Oh, you build stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm a carpenter.
Cool.
Not an architect, but yeah.
Oh, whatever.
Build some cool shit though.
But one's not better than the other. But one requires getting in more college debt than the other. Yeah. So maybe one is better.
I build what you design. Pretty much.
Yeah. So we became friends there, and he's a very open-minded and very smart. He after they left LA, he got his master's at Harvard, or his MBA, and so he's kind of the straight-laced smart dude, and I just tell the shitty jokes. But anyway, we just realized when Mormonism, you guys maybe talked about it when they started discriminating against the children of homosexuals. If you guys have talked, I believe have talked about that.
Yes, we have. So,
but just to 5-second summary, let me poorly summarize this. Children of homosexuals can't get baptized. Of married homosexual couples, they can be living together just as long as they don't get married. If they get married, I think they can't. Their kids can't be Mormon. Anyway, this made both of us so upset that we decided we need to talk about this, and we just started the podcast 2 days later, and just to talk about that issue. And we I don't even think we had the name of the show. We weren't even sure what it was going to be about. We just sort of started it, and then started honing it over time through trial and error. And then we've kind of settled on a comedy news show. And we have a different guest on every week. And we have a lot of, I think I'm really proud of some of our segments, like Trumped Up, where you have to spot the fake Trump story or Trump quote. And so Justin has 5 or 4 different options, and one of them's fake. And so that's pretty fun. And then there's...
We actually used to play a game on our old podcast called Whose Lie Is It? And it was when the Republicans had the full horde of nominee hopefuls. And what I would do is I would go and I would search through PolitiFact and all the other sites and find, 7 to 9 lies that these candidates or candidate hopefuls had said. I would pick 4 or 5 of them, and then we'd go through like that. So kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and it's a fun, it's fun to play a game. It's engaging, and now that it's Trump and Pence, I'm really excited. I secretly want them to win because that will increase the value of our show.
And you could call it Trump Pants.
Yeah, right. but did you guys hear about, for example, Periods for Pence? Have you heard about that?
No.
So Periods for Pence, we had the founder of the organization on our show, episode 28, I want to say. Governor Pence, he signed some legislation that it's just, anti-abortion legislation, and the women started calling his office to talk about their periods. They're like, if you're so interested about my body, let me talk to you. It gets a little more complicated with the law, because in the law you have to properly dispose of, bury your aborted fetus, but most miscarriages qualify miscarriages that just happen through, naturally, often when you don't even know you're pregnant. And so technically it'd be illegal to not properly dispose of it. So that's why they're like, they just call it they just had people constantly calling his office saying things like, I just wanted to let you know that I have a really heavy flow this month, and just wanted to make sure we're not going to get in any trouble with the government. And so anyway, awesome. They call, and so we had her on the show. She was a lot of fun. And then another segment is that's a reoccurring one is called "Stupid Shit My Friends Post." So we have a whole podcast community. Anybody's welcome to join. Poorly summarized podcast community, and our listeners submit stupid shit that their friends have posted, and we pick whatever we think's the best one to discuss that week, and we make fun of it. So it's kind of a form of therapy for people, because you know how like if you see something somebody you know or like, or high school friend has posted something really stupid and you just want to scream at them. But it's like, it's going to be a lot of work, and then see if you have us, you submit it to the group. And that gets to be your outlet. And you don't have to, have your day ruined with getting in some stupid debate with some dumb fuck that doesn't deserve to be engaged.
You described your show as a social media news show, right?
Yeah, we discuss what's trending in social media. I don't know how honest of a description that is, but I'm saying, like that's one kind of shorthand. That's a poor summary of our poorly summarized podcast. Yeah. So we try to pick what are just the funny news stories. We try to have one kind of, at least one heavy or serious topic, and then just, other funnier stuff. And like we have one segment called Eye Candy, where I discuss something in art and architecture design, too. So we can pull into some of my expertise, in as much as you call it that.
I want to build a home, if I win the lotto, that has the black gates of Mordor. Can you do that?
I could do that. Yeah, I could do that.
He could draw it.
I could do a poor job of it. Right? Yeah.
All right.
I could build it, but I wouldn't do it.
And y'all are all welcome to live in Mordor with me.
Really?
I'll have houses all over Mordor, and everybody be allowed to.
It requires you to win the lottery, I assume.
Yeah, of course. But I'm, but you'll be doing a job 2 hours a day. You have to go patrol the Black Gate and make sure, no freaking Sauron orcs get in. I'm just saying.
So
I'll have jobs for you.
So we have to. It's sort of like we have to really play a character the whole time we're in there in your Mordor town.
Only when you're patrolling the wall.
Okay. Listen, just send me an application. I'll think about it.
All right. Cool.
So why don't we play a game? In the spirit of the poorly summarized podcast, why don't you play a quick game called Did Trump Say It on Twitter? But we'll do it a bit differently though. As each tweet I'll read could either be true, as in Trump said it, or false, as in he didn't say it. We'll just go around the table and everyone can say, he said it or didn't say it, true or false.
How many are there?
There are. Curious. Great question. It's 4 tweets or
sounds familiar.
Right. Or non-tweets that I've pulled from Twitter. Is everyone ready?
I'm ready.
No stress.
Ready. I'm nervous that this is going to be better than our show.
Probably not, but we'll see.
Of course, it's not going to be.
So at Real Donald Trump said, at MSNBC is all negative when it comes to me. I don't watch it anymore. Is that true or false? Dave?
I'm going to go with fucking true on that one.
Okay. Ed?
I'm going to say false.
Okay. Mike?
I'm saying false because that doesn't sound particularly inflammatory.
Okay. And Corinne?
I'm going to say true.
All right. And let's go to the next tweet. At Real Donald Trump said, just arrived in Scotland. Place is going wild over the vote. They took their country back just like we will take America back. No games. Dave?
True.
Okay. Ed?
True.
All
True.
Right.
True.
All right.
I think this question's been on the Poorly Summarized podcast.
All right.
Are you just ripping us off?
You may have to file a lawsuit.
Just stepping on some toes here.
And let's go to our third tweet. At Real Donald Trump says, Mitt Romney had his chance to be the failed president, but he choked like a dog. Now he calls me racist, but I am least racist person there is. Dave?
I'm going to say false.
Okay. Ed?
That's definitely true.
Mike?
That's got to be true.
All right.
I was
I
at
want it to be
false at first until I heard the very last line, and I'm at true now.
The one where he says, "I'm the least racist person there is."
Yes.
I am least racist person.
Again,
there
I
is.
want that to be true so bad.
And our final tweet. At real Donald Trump says, crooked Hillary Clinton will be a disaster on jobs, the economy, climate change, healthcare, the military, guns, and just about all else. Obama plus. Dave.
True.
Okay.
True.
True. I think now I'm realizing I think all of these are true.
True.
Tricking us.
Okay. All right. So let's recap. So the first tweet is at MSNBC is all negative when it comes to me. I don't watch it anymore. Everyone got it except Mike. Sorry. No, Mike was the only one that got it. It's false. So it's actually CNN is all
Edward
negative.
said false as well.
No, I wrote it down. You said true.
No, I said false.
Edward said false,
First
David.
one.
Okay.
Said
So yeah. Oh my God. So yes, Ed
So
and
now
Mike.
How can we trust anything?
Hold on.
you
Is
say?
there a prize for the winner?
No, this is just fun.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
All right. So Ed and
we're
Mike,
fine
you
with
guys
the
got it
prize.
right. False. It's CNN. He accused CNN of being negative when it comes to him.
Oh, okay. I knew
Okay.
he fucked with one of them.
All right. And you guys all got the Scotland one because he completely went psycho on that, right? He arrived in Scotland and didn't engage the whole debate. And the next question, Mitt Romney had his chance to beat a failed president, and everyone but Dave
Oh,
got that
man.
one.
I'm sucking big fat Trump dick.
And I got you guys all in the last one because Crooked Hillary said, climate change, guys? Seriously? Trump and climate change? Remember? I said, that disaster on jobs, the economy.
Yeah, but
No, all I heard
just
was
say-
crooked Hillary, and I just said true.
Wait, you're
but-
saying it was false?
It was false because he didn't mention climate change.
Yeah,
at
but
all.
but I would not put it past a dumb fuck like Trump to accuse somebody of being like less environmental
yes,
than
you're
he
right.
is just to.
No, that's Dave.
But
Dave, you play hardball. You play
did,
hardball on this. And you and Justin have a lot in common. I think I give you my respect.
They're both big, black, and gay.
And there's a prize.
Well, I got you guys on that one, but awesome job.
Okay, sexy listeners, have you been listening and thinking, I could have said that better than Dave's dumbass? Well, here's your chance. It's contest time. The way the contest will work is, you guys submit a topic. The topic that we like best will be picked for a segment on our show. But wait, there's more. The listener that submits the winning topic will join us for the segment on our show. The topic must be related to our podcast. All submissions must come properly sourced. Failure to do so will mean an automatic disqualification. So don't send any bullshit, motherfuckers. Deadline for the contest is August 1st. Send all topics to waywardatheistpodcast@gmail.com. Tired of boring old jewelry and charms? Why not wear a motherfucking T-Rex around your neck? Or a pendant of the Scarlet A? Handmade, secular, and science jewelry from the Crafty Freethinker gives you a nice alternative to boring old jewelry. Find the Crafty Freethinker on Etsy and Amazon. Links are in the show notes, or simply Google the Crafty Freethinker as one word.
On this week's Big Gay World, Jim Obergefell slams the First Amendment Defense Act committee hearings. Is this year's GOP platform the most anti-gay ever? And LGBT history is to be taught in California schools. Our first story is from gaystarnews.com. The lead plaintiff in the SCOTUS case that made same-sex marriage legal in all 50 states is speaking out against the proposed First Amendment Defense Act, aka FADA. During a Republican-controlled committee meeting that he attended, which happened to have coincided with the 1-month mark of the tragic Orlando nightclub shootings, Obergefell slammed the proponents of the bill, saying that, quote, "The U.S. Congress must be better than this."
I understand that the proponents of this legislation argue that it is necessary to protect churches, clergy, and others who oppose marriage equality for religious reasons. But the First Amendment is already clear on this point. Since the founding of this country, no church and no member of the clergy has been forced to marry any couple if doing so would violate their religious teachings. That has not changed since same-sex couples won the freedom to marry. Religious liberty is a core American value. Everyone in this country is free to believe or not and to live out their faith as they see fit, provided that they do not do so in a way that harms other people. As I see it, this legislation turns this value on its head by permitting discrimination and harm under the guise of religious liberty. Among this legislation's many potential harms, it could allow any privately owned business to refuse to let a gay or lesbian employee take time off to care for a sick spouse, even though that otherwise would violate federal family and medical leave laws. This is not the kind of dignity and respect that the Supreme Court spoke so eloquently of in the decision granting the freedom to marry nationwide last June. What could ever justify such a discriminatory and harmful action? Earlier in this hearing, it was stated that the purpose of the First Amendment Defense Act is to ensure no one is discriminated against because of how they view marriage. I would like you to read the bill again and understand that is exactly what this bill does. It allows discrimination against me and couples like me and John across this country who believe in marriage equality, who believe in our constitutional right to marry the person we love. I believe that the United States Congress must be better than this.
FADA aims to prevent the federal government from taking action against individuals and businesses that discriminate against people based on religious grounds. According to gaystarnews.com, it would allow businesses to withhold benefits from LGBTI employees, allow companies to deny time off to an employee to care for a same-sex spouse, and permit housing discrimination against same-sex couples. So fuck FADA. This is a subsection of the religious rights post-Obergefell, post-Windsor strategy. It's one thing to propose a law that says the government can't take action against an individual or a business based on its belief about marriage. This would still be a shitty law that would deserve to be struck down. But FADA isn't a law that prevents government sanctions against people who have any kind of view about marriage. This is a law to protect those that have a specific religious view about marriage, the one-man, one-woman view. So what's going on with this year's GOP platform? According to the New York Times, this year, Republicans moved towards adopting a staunchly conservative platform that takes a strict, traditionalist view of the family and child rearing, bars military women from combat, describes coal as a quote-unquote clean energy source, and declares pornography a, quote, public health crisis, end quote. As delegates engaged in debates lasting over 2 days this past week, they repeatedly rejected efforts by more moderate members of the platform committee to add language that would acknowledge or condemn anti-gay discrimination. The numerous additions to the platform on marriage, family, homosexuality, and gender issues were a reflection of just how much society and the law have shifted since Republicans adopted their last platform 4 years ago. It seems that society's opinion on these social issues are moving in the opposite direction of the GOP's base. While moderates pushing for pro-LGBT reforms managed to get enough signatures to demand a full vote by the party's delegates, it's clear that social conservatives exercise lots of influence over the policies in general, pushing most issues to the right. So who do we blame for many of these policies? Apparently dudes like Tony Perkins. According to the New York Times, Trump and his policy people were notably absent from the policy drafting and debates process, allowing religious conservative activists like Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, to exert greater influence. Perkins' hand could be seen in dozens of amendments on issues like gun control, religious expression, and bathroom use. Perkins said of the GOP platform in front of reporters, quote, "This is a statement of not Donald Trump's campaign, but of the Republican Party," end quote. Now, I know conservatism under a Westminster system like we have in Canada, Australia, or the UK is different than that of the US, but I have to chuckle a little because at least on the issue of LGBT rights, the conservatives up here were presented with the same fork in the road. The Canadian conservatives went a different route. Now, I'm not going to cheer or tout them, but boy oh boy, after all is said and done, something can be said of a Tory presence in a Toronto Pride Parade. Our last story is from gaystarnews.com. On July 14th, the California State Board of Education announced that LGBTI history will now be taught to students in California. This means that people like the late Harvey Milk, the first openly gay elected public official in California, and others, will have their contributions to the state and U.S. history accurately represented in all classrooms for the first time.
The State Board of Education has voted unanimously to adopt public school curriculum guidelines focusing on LGBT Americans. Under the teaching framework, second graders would learn about families with two moms or two dads, and fourth graders would learn about California's role in the gay rights movement. The outline also touches on the topics in the 5th and 8th grades and throughout high school. Changes being made to comply with a law requiring schools to teach students about prominent gay people and LGBT rights milestones. The board reviewed the updates as part of a broader overhaul of California's history and social science curriculums.
And that's your Big Gay World for this week.
We've produced a piece of animation to show you what Mormon theology is really all about.
Mormonism teaches that trillions of planets scattered throughout the cosmos are ruled by countless gods who once were human like us. They say that long ago on one of these planets, to an unidentified god and one of his goddess wives, a spirit child named Elohim was conceived. This spirit child was later born to human parents who gave him a physical body. Through obedience to Mormon teaching and death and resurrection, he proved himself worthy and was elevated to godhood as his father before him. Mormons believe that Elohim is their heavenly father and that he lives with his many goddess wives on a planet near a mysterious star called Korah. Here, the God of Mormonism and his wives, through endless celestial sex, produced billions of spirit children. To decide their destiny, the head of the Mormon gods called a great heavenly council meeting. Both of Elohim's eldest sons were there, Lucifer and his brother Jesus. A plan was presented to build planet Earth, where the spirit children would be sent to take on mortal bodies and learn good from evil. Lucifer stood and made his bid for becoming savior of this new world. Wanting the glory for himself, he planned to force everyone to become gods. Opposing the idea, the Mormon Jesus suggested giving man his freedom of choice, as on other planets. The vote that followed approved the proposal of the Mormon Jesus, who would become savior of the planet Earth. Enraged, Lucifer cunningly convinced 1/3 of the spirits destined for Earth to fight with him in revolt. Thus Lucifer became the devil and his followers the demons. Sent to this world, they would forever be denied bodies of flesh and bone. Those who remained neutral in the battle were cursed to be born with black skin. This is the Mormon explanation for the Negro race. The spirits that fought most valiantly against Lucifer would be born into Mormon families on planet Earth. These would be the lighter-skinned people or white and delightsome, as the Book of Mormon describes them. Early Mormon prophets taught that Elohim and one of his goddess wives came to earth as Adam and Eve to start the human race. Thousands of years later, Elohim, in human form once again, journeyed to earth from the starbase Kolob, this time to have sex with the Virgin Mary, in order to provide Jesus with a physical body. After Jesus Christ grew to manhood, he took at least 3 wives, Mary, Martha, and Mary Magdalene. Through these wives, the Mormon Jesus, for whom Joseph Smith claimed direct descent, supposedly fathered a number of children before he was crucified. According to the Book of Mormon, after his resurrection, Jesus came to the Americas to preach to the Indians, who the Mormons believe are really Israelites. Thus, the Jesus of Mormonism established his church in the Americas as he had in Palestine. By the year 421 A.D., the dark-skinned Indian Israelites, known as Lamanites, had destroyed all of the white Nephites in a number of great battles. The Nephites' records were supposedly written on golden plates and buried by Moroni, the last living Nephite in the hill Cumorah. 1,400 years later, a young treasure seeker named Joseph Smith, who was known for his tall tales, claimed to have uncovered these same gold plates near his home in upstate New York. He is now honored by Mormons as a prophet because he claimed to have had visions from the spirit world in which he was commanded to organize the Mormon Church, because all Christian creeds were an abomination. It was Joseph Smith who originated most of these peculiar doctrines which millions today believe to be true. By maintaining a rigid code of financial and moral requirements and through performing secret temple rituals for themselves and the dead, the Latter-day Saints hope to prove their worthiness and thus become gods. The Mormons teach that everyone must stand at the final judgment before Joseph Smith, the Mormon Jesus, and Elohim. Those Mormons who are sealed in the eternal marriage ceremony expect to become polygamous gods in the celestial kingdom, rule over other planets, and spawn new families throughout eternity. The Mormons thank God for Joseph Smith, who claimed that he had done more for us than any other man, including Jesus Christ. The Mormons believe that he died as a martyr, shed his blood for us, so that we too may become gods.
Okay, so we're back from the commercial, and now we're going to jump into 10 crazy Mormon beliefs you didn't know existed.
Okay. So
All
number
right.
1 is skin colored. Dark skin turns white.
Okay, this one's a doozy. I don't
I'm
know which
half
one.
black, half white, so I'm like,
all
so good.
This is one that Mormonism has tried, understandably, to distance itself from, and it believes the Book of Mormon is the story, according to Mormonism, is the story of the ancient, the inhabitants of the ancient Americas, and the story is that the wicked, they split off into the righteous and the wicked were cursed with black skin, or dark skin, and that ultimately all of the wicked dark skin, what they call Lamanites, ended up killing off all of the light-skinned righteous Nephites. And so that all of the dark-skinned people that were left, like the Native Americans, they're all descendants of the Lamanites, and that their dark skin is a curse of their wickedness.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If being black is such a curse, how come they get the big dicks?
You're asking the wrong person. You'd really have to ask them, and I have a feeling that they wouldn't be comfortable answering that.
David?
I don't know. I'm not Mormon.
Yeah.
You do have a big dick, though, right?
I think one of the things that you have to take into account is that we forgot to mention too is that the more righteous you get, the lighter your skin tone will be, and until
I don't think that's something they currently believe.
No, not currently.
But so the Book of Mormon taught that, but it was never like I was taught that people with dark skin are inferior or anything like that in my time in Mormonism. But there was a time when Spencer W. Kimball, one of the past leaders of the church, I believe it was him, if I recall correctly, he taught that, or he told a story about how this Native American family, how their children's skin started to turn lighter as they embraced the gospel. And so there was a time when they did believe specifically that your skin did become lighter. But every single Mormon I know, or just about everyone I met, would be appalled if they read that anecdote. Even though 30 years ago that would have maybe been a commonplace belief. So it's a little unfair to say that they believe that now, but still in the Book of Mormon, which is their canon, it does say that the dark skin.
Well, I mean, we also believe that only you're in a celestial kingdom that you'll be white. That is.
I'm not, well, sure, but I think it's, I guess, yeah, but I think they're like talking like white, like as in, like, because I'm white, but I'm really just a lighter shade of brown. I think they're just
very
like,
white.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, that's if I were, a Mormon 30 years ago, I would have really thanked you for that compliment. But no, but I feel like in their mind, it's like you are like white, like a light bulb. Maybe not. Maybe they believe you're white. I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right.
Yeah, no, I was taught. When I was taught, they told us that no, when in the celestial kingdom, everybody would be white. And prior to Spencer W. When in 1978, when they allowed blacks into the priesthood, that blacks weren't allowed to get in because they didn't have the priesthood. They couldn't get into the celestial kingdom. Therefore, they couldn't enter into they wouldn't be gods at that point, right?
And I had heard that before 1978, the only way that blacks could get into heaven was as a slave.
Yeah, they did talk. They would be servants. Yeah, that is definitely true.
So that wouldn't be heaven then for them.
So they believe that heaven has degrees, and that you couldn't reach the top degree if you were black. That you would be close, but you would exist as a servant. Yeah, but they do believe white people could be servants as well. But yeah, you essentially but if you're black, but when we say black, we're not talking about anybody with dark skin. We're talking about specifically people of the African race for them. So you could have been Polynesian or Mexican and be baptized, just couldn't be black, like of African descent. So for some weird reason. It was very, very specifically racist.
What time of period did this happen? And didn't this happen around the late 1800s, right?
Yeah, I mean, Joseph Smith, I don't think he did ordain, black, at least one or two black people to the priesthood. But I think after him, they started, like in Brigham Young's time, they made it, by the time they moved to Utah, they had made it explicit that no black people could join up until 1978. Or they could join, but they couldn't
hold the priesthood.
Couldn't hold the priesthood, and the women couldn't. All women. I should also just stop for a second. This is very offensive, but not more offensive than what they're currently doing, which is not allowing women to have the priesthood. So I'm saying,
and Prop 8.
Yeah. So yeah, and other things. So the only reason I would say women is worse than Prop 8 is only by virtue of how many people are affected. That's the only reason I would say, because women are they're around half the population. So it's only more serious in terms of scale. That's all. But yeah, they're equally. Otherwise, if you're not including scale, they're both equally terrible. So I get a little annoyed when like Catholics or something are appalled at Mormonism's stance on, African Americans pre-1978, when they don't allow women to have the priesthood themselves, and they think that somehow
and they fuck kids
better. Well, yeah, that happens, but I'm saying that's not embraced in their.
Stop yourself.
I love going on YouTube and watching Mormon Tabernacle Choir videos and seeing like the 3 black people in the 100 people choir and saying, what the fuck are you doing there? Anyway,
well, yeah, okay. there's black members. I've met plenty.
Number 2, Missouri is the happening place in Mormonism.
I'll go take the lead on this one first.
Please.
Missouri, not only is the second coming of where Jesus Christ himself is going to come, but it was also the Garden of Eden.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why Missouri is a very, very special place in Mormonism.
It's the Garden of Eden, yeah?
Well, it's the Garden of Eden, and as he said, the place where Jesus, the second coming of Christ, is going. That's where he will first appear, and during that era of the second coming, the apocalyptic era, the Mormons believe they're all going to congregate in Missouri. There's going to be a gathering in Missouri. That Missouri is Zion. That Zion is a specific place, and it is Missouri. And at some point, Mormons will all gather there, and when Jesus comes, and so he will appear before a crowd of Mormons.
He'll come Missouri. Before he puts it in. This is the absolute most American religion that there is. Like, this is like America, fuck yeah. Coming to convert you motherfuckers, hell yeah.
And this doctrine came from a time when they thought they were going to be permanently settled in Missouri before they were expelled. So, it's like after they had to move, they're like, God damn it. Do we have to say, like, they made it perfectly clear. And so there's other religions there that break off from Mormonism. I think it's what's called the Church of the Temple Lot, where Mormons had there's something like they had a place for a special second coming temple, and they dedicated it. But then, the largest faction of Mormonism, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they did not get the rights to that. So there's an organization that has possession of it, that they want. So anyway, that's Missouri. I don't know how weird that is to you guys, but
it's super weird. I would really like to talk to an ex-fundie.
Oh, like a fundamentalist LDS.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
that's super interesting.
Because they share all the beliefs of the mainstream LDS Church. They look like the LDS Church did probably, in the early 1900s, in terms of the way they treat women and their beliefs. And so they haven't changed much.
They had a TV show on one of the whatever channels where they showed what happened.
Sister Wives?
No, not Sister Wives. This was a serious show.
Okay.
It wasn't the bullshit. It showed what happened with some of the teenage boys when they got to a certain age, and the older men in the fundie groups were jealous and kind of just threw them out on their own. And what it was that a group of those boys that they had thrown out on their own were going back and helping the girls escape.
Oh, wow. Oh, I did hear about that. I haven't seen it, but no, I have personally met worked with, as coworkers, a couple of, ex-polygamist, men that were kicked out essentially because, the ratio, they got to keep the men to women ratio lopsided. So, if you give one slip up at all, it's pretty much like if they realize you're not going to be a polygamist, like they will find a reason to kick you out, because at some point you're going to masturbate or you're going to say something inappropriate, whatever it is, you'll get kicked out.
Number 3.
Numero tres. Stay away from the water. A Mormon belief.
Oh, Jesus.
What?
And the picture is, you could see mountains, and in the front of the mountains is a glacier-esque thing, and then water.
Well, basically, Satan has dominion over the waters.
That doesn't make any sense. I thought he was a fire guy.
No,
doesn't water extinguish fire? I don't know. I could be wrong. But
you're right. This is probably one of those many beliefs that Mormonism has that Mormonism has, but has stopped talking about. Like, there's like other obscure beliefs, for example, of like, if you meet a ghost, if you want to know if it's a good ghost or a bad ghost, like if you ask to shake its hand, if it's a good ghost, he'll say he doesn't have a body and he can't shake your hand. But if it's a Satan ghost, he will shake your hand. It's some trick. Like Mormons believe this.
I thought that you were supposed to like ask questions into an EMF reader and then like go to a German castle and speak English and say, "Is there anybody there?" And then go,
What?
What?
No, it's much easier than that. You just have to ask if they'll shake your hand. So anyway, this is explicit. It's in their scriptures, what I just said, but it's like nobody talks about it. And so I think
it's in
when
Mormon
I was younger,
scripture?
Oh yeah, and the Doctrine and Covenants it's called. The one I mentioned. And so is this one about the water. There's a lot of weird things that even serious Mormons, they're like, what the fuck? You know, except they say different words than I just said. Yeah. So the belief is that Satan has power of the water, and I was taught this in my youth, and I haven't heard mention of that. I went probably a decade without hearing this, but I recall meeting someone that had sex on his mission with a girl in a hot tub, and he was like, clearly just it's true, Satan has power over the water, because he believed that because he was in the water, it made him have sex. Satan made him have sex with the woman.
Oh, gosh.
So,
the sexual repression in Mormonism is just freaky.
All right, Corinne, number 4.
The work of creation. And in this picture, just so you know, it's showing 2 hands cupping a planet, Earth. It's really cheesy.
I don't know if that's a Mormon image. No. So this one, the title isn't self-explanatory, but I have read it.
I read this. Like, isn't it
you
because
want me to read a little bit of what they were saying in the?
I don't think that this is something weird about Mormonism, but sorry, I cut someone off. Oh,
no, didn't like I was reading this, but like they were saying that God didn't create Earth.
No, yeah,
he molded it or something like that.
It's just saying no. It is saying a bit of that. I think Mormons believe that God doesn't create from nothing, but he assembles from existing things. So that was part of it. But I think what it's pointing out is that Mormons don't believe that God, the Father, created the earth. I think they believe it was Adam, was given power to do that. Like who is called Michael, the archangel. And so, I mean, they believe Michael created the earth and not God. I don't know why that is more weird. And I don't think this is a weird belief in Mormonism because, I mean, why is that more weird? Well, I'm saying, why is it more weird than thinking God created the earth? I don't know why that adds a layer of weirdness.
But
is it because like a subordinate creature? I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of Christians might be offended by this idea that God delegated the responsibility, because this is important to Mormonism, because Mormon is all about hierarchy, right? So they're all about finding opportunities to express the existence of hierarchy in heaven, because that reaffirms the existing hierarchy within the church, right? Of people being in charge,
right, and
other people. So they're about talking about delegation. So they
and if you remember in your endowment ceremony, when you went through, we show the video that you watch, and it talks. Elohim's talking to Jehovah and Adam to go down and organize the matter. So it's that it's delegation.
That's super weird. Just so you know, as somebody that was never whatever, super weird.
Super weird. So it's more weird to you than just saying God did it.
They're all fucking weird. It's all weird.
No, it is weird, but for it to be weird, I think it needs to deviate noticeably from like existing kind of maybe Christian beliefs that are.
So I think
ubiquitous.
my gold standard isn't Christian beliefs. My gold standard is like rational thought. So
sure.
It's super weird.
Oh yeah, but in that case, it's all like as far as I'm concerned, I'm saying God. If you were to say God is a pink unicorn is equally weird as saying God loves you. I mean, these are, even though one seems less bizarre than the other, I think all positive claims are equal. So, I mean, certainly, they're all equally bizarre by those standards. But I'm just basing off of maybe what my standard, like I said, is how much does it deviate from from typical absurd beliefs.
Gotcha. Okay, number 5, Corinne.
Multiple heavens.
All right, who wants to cover this?
Basically, this has a biblical source.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it talks
I have
about.
my Book of Mormon with me, so I mean.
Well, I mean,
you have scripture, please.
It's not discussed in the Book of Mormon much.
Damn it.
No. This is basically talking about the celestial, telestial, and terrestrial kingdoms, and about basically that there's even within the celestial kingdom, there's 3 different layers.
Yeah, so there's 6 total layers. I actually think that, as weird as this is one of the few, dare I say, contributions that Mormonism would make to Christianity, because Mormons don't believe in hell. So they don't believe that, with a few exceptions. They do believe there's a devil with his minions, but only very few go there, and it would be people like me, people who knew the truth for a surety and left, and denied it, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, they believe that everybody's going to go to heaven, and that even the lowest degree of heaven is better than Earth.
Let me ask you a question. What's with your own planet? Like, is that heaven? Your own planet?
I never recall. So I always grew up hearing people that were criticizing Mormonism talking about your own planet. I never heard about your own planet, though I know where that comes from. Because it's more than your own planet, it's your own universe or whatever. Because Mormons believe that you become a god yourself. So there's those layers. So there's the 3 degrees of glory, starting with telestial, terrestrial, then celestial, and then celestial, like was mentioned, is broken up into 3 levels. And like that's where we talked about earlier that like black people would have been at the lowest level of the celestial if that's as high as they would have gone. But if you're at the highest level of the celestial kingdom, that means that you become a god yourself, and that you have your own spirit children that end up going to their own earths. And
it's basically the Bible story rewritten every time.
Yeah. So you just end up. It's just you just repeat. You just do what God has done.
Does Mormonism define what the properties of God are? Is it like classical theism sort of thing, or does God have different properties?
The biggest difference is that God has a mortal body.
Okay.
Or physical bodies.
Physical body. Yeah, immortal physical bodies. Yeah, I shouldn't say mortal. That's right.
Yeah, so yeah, God is a being. He is a man with a dick.
And he was born from somebody named Elohim?
No, he is Elohim. Elohim is...
So who gave birth to Elohim if he has
another God?
Body?
Another God, and we don't talk
about. So
who's
that God?
Yeah, we don't know.
Infinite regrets.
Well, I want to know who that other God is.
They don't talk because
what they would say is you only worry about the God you worship. So when I have my own spirit babies, they will worship me. They won't worship my God.
The actual God. I want to know who the first God was.
This religion gets weirder and weirder.
Well, who is the first God?
Well, no, that's the thing. There wasn't. There's forever. They just believe in eternity. It just goes back forever.
Yeah,
and they also believe that you always existed. They believe we've all existed forever. We just existed as intelligent kind of blobs, and then God organized us into cogent spiritual beings.
No offense, but how did you guys ever fucking believe this?
Because we were just trained to believe that, and from a
when
young
you're
age.
Taught that as a child.
The thing that's more weird is like, maybe why did it take as long as it did to realize it was a lie? But again, as far as I'm concerned, even though there's some complexity to the story, again, I would also just say to anybody, how would you believe that believing all these weird specifics is just as weird as believing in some general idea of God? I mean, it's all absurd.
David, to go back to what you were saying about the different characteristics of God. The only thing that really separates Mormonism from regular Christianity is that the Trinity concept of 3 beings being one is not. Mormons don't believe that in particular.
Sure.
They believe there's 3 separate beings and that they all have equal purpose and power, but there's 3 separate entities.
Yeah. So a lot of Christians say this is why Mormons aren't Christian.
Because of the Trinity.
But Edward, I've asked Edward this in the past, and he says that he believes that Mormonism is an Abrahamic religion.
Yeah, no, Mormonism. You want to know why I think Mormons are Christians?
Yeah, fire away.
Because they say so. Because nobody's job to say what's Christian or not Christian.
Yeah. So this is the reason
why.
why I think that they are, because they worship Jesus Christ. And that's pretty much the telltale marker of a Christian.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I understand you could create definitions of Christianity that make that not work, but as far as I'm concerned, it's nobody has authority to say what's a Christian or not. So, they may be more loosely related to Christianity than other people, but I would just say they're Christian, and that's too bad that they are, because Christians fucking suck. So when I was Mormon, people would ask me if I were a Christian, and I'd be like, I'd like to think that I'm not, because I don't like the association with Christianity. But yeah, we're Christian, sadly. So I'm going to have to deal with that association. But no, I never liked.
Like, Mormons are super cunty to gays and women too. So I mean, like, you can't be like,
that should make them Christian. Yeah.
Christians.
You can't be like, oh, Christians suck, but look at us. We're spending millions on Prop 8. We're fucking, you know what I mean?
Oh, no. That was back when I was,
when you were a Mormon.
Didn't have the self-awareness,
okay.
Right? That's when I thought my religion wasn't fucking, because I associate Christianity with these what I thought were more crazy, like evangelical churches that were, just the, Bible thumping mega churches. I do still think a lot of like Westboro Baptists and stuff. I mean, they're at a whole nother level. But I was associating Christianity with those more extremes. A few of which are more extreme than Mormonism. But yeah, no, this was back when I didn't realize I didn't associate Mormonism with sexism.
Wouldn't you say that the Westboro Baptist Church is following the religion more closely than, say, like a kind of liberal Christian, though?
I mean, you mean following the text, maybe? Yeah, of course. But yeah, that's, which they could use as ammunition. I always applaud any Christian religion that doesn't believe in the Bible very much. So, but as I always like to tell Christians, I don't believe in the Bible because I believe that sex slavery and genocide are always wrong, not sometimes. Okay.
Yes.
So anyway.
Okay. Number 6.
Number 6. Dinosaur bones, a weird Mormon belief.
Jesus. This is not the belief that where these were creatures from another planet when it was pushed into form the Earth, that the dinosaur bones came. Is that? Because that was just big.
That's that belief that was taught in the past, and that is no longer taught. This is one that I personally know Mormons that believe this, but it is not.
Say, if it was taught in the past, some still believe it.
Yeah, it's the belief that the way that they explain dinosaur bones and all these things, because the Earth can't be millions of years old, right? Most Mormons accept, P.S., that the Earth is millions of years old, right? But for those that can't get past that, the story of Genesis, they say that God created the Earth from other planets. He gathered the material, and so those other planets had dinosaurs on them, and that's where the dinosaur, like, they had fossilized, like, the footprints. Yeah, that's what they believe. So it was just like God just like threw a bunch of planets together. Like,
that's
dead
almost as bad as the Jehovah Witnesses saying that they were planted there to trick them by Satan.
Okay. They're just like, like God put dinosaur bones on Earth to test our faith.
Yes. But Satan put them there to trick you.
Oh God, he's a tricky son of a bitch. So yeah, but again, more like most Mormons would think that's absurd. And so that's a tricky thing with Mormonism. Yeah, there's been a lot of crazy things that have been said, and it's like what sticks, what sticks to become doctrine over time. It's constantly in flux.
But your living prophet can make any of these things a reality within the church, right?
Yeah, and that's what they deal with, is that some of these things were said by people that were at the time living prophets, and they said this is God's word, and then they're like 60 years later, they're like, well, maybe this was one time he was wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Are they on something when they decide this stuff?
who knows? I think most Mormons don't do the illegal kind of drugs.
Well, the prophets or the whatever they call it.
I don't think so. I mean, they could be hallucinating, but I think that they're just ideas. They just come up with crazy ideas, and why not? So I just think they spend too much time thinking about stupid shit. And they come up with stuff, but they just keep feeding off each other. There's some crazy story that someone tells that they hear, and then they build off of that theory. And but I don't know how many of them seem like they come from some acid trip. And P.S. You guys have mentioned in the past that some of you, I recall, or one of you thinks that the leaders of the church don't believe it, right? They don't believe the stuff.
I'm not sure who said that, but.
I may have said that there are some church leaders.
Oh, no, but no, I thought it was like
no.
Edward. No? Oh, okay. I was listening to it like yesterday.
I was asked that question once.
Oh, okay, yeah, but I think because I wanted to be like, no, I definitely think they believe it, and I'm sure some don't. Of course, some don't, but no, I know what it's like to believe, and I have friends that are smarter than me and know more about the dirty history of Mormonism than me and believe all of it. They may have some nuance to their belief, but they still believe it. So,
or are they putting on a show for families?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I'm saying I talk to them in confidence and they really believe it. And, whatever. They're usually the type of people that are smart and knowledgeable, though, they tend to have enough nuance to their beliefs that they're not crazy about it. So,
but Mike, I think Gordon B. Hinckley, when he was buying forgeries to hide them from the church population, had some inkling that this was bullshit.
I just think that they were trying to protect. They're like, I think what they saw was they're like, no, Joseph Smith's story is legit, but all we know is that this is dangerous material, and who knows what the explanation is. But let me just buy this and bury this because it is risky. So I just think it's damage control. I just think it's possible that they can do damage control without really getting into what the implications of the damage control are.
Which brings us to number 7.
Of which there is no number 7. I have been looking everywhere. It goes from 6 to 8.
Okay.
Well, so God in space. God in space.
Did any of you guys watch Battlestar Galactica?
Yes.
No, but I just got a thing. Pigs in space. Is anybody old enough to remember the Muppet Show, or is that just me?
No,
I remember the Muppets.
I remember that.
Yeah, I do not remember that. No, I'm sorry. But so any of my fellow Mormons here want to cover the God in space?
There's only one fellow Mormon there, dude.
the whole Kolob star.
Yeah.
Oh. How is that pronounced? Kolob?
Kolob. And I ask if you've seen Battlestar Galactica because it was written by a Mormon, and they call it Kobal.
Yeah.
And I heard that, but I also heard in the Book of Mormon the musical Kolob. So.
Yeah, Kolob. Yeah, but no, it's Kolob is how Mormons say it.
So
yeah.
Battlestar Galactica was written by a Mormon?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The original one was the revision, the second one that was what do you call that? The reboot was probably not, but they still used the same source material.
Did you know that the lead singer of the Killers is Mormon?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my God. Yeah. Love that.
Crazy. It's crazy. Him and Dawkins had a little.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, I'm so upset by that.
Me too. I was totally.
I think, I don't know how much he embraces it, but yeah, him and Dawkins had a weird confrontation.
Oh man, but Dawkins, he was super into it. It seemed in that.
Yeah, no, I was disappointed in that. I thought Dawkins was being a dick, but also.
Really, I didn't see that.
Yeah, okay. I'd have to watch it again to see if I still agree with that.
I think Brandon was he wasn't prepared to.
Yeah, he was just caught off guard.
But Dawkins did say that if I knew you were leaving, I wouldn't have said that.
Oh, okay.
I think it was a conversation starter.
Oh yeah, but yeah. So he called Brandon Flowers out on some bullshit belief that Brandon Flowers doesn't strike me as a Mormon that spends a lot of time thinking about his beliefs, and so specifically his Mormon beliefs. And so he's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? And Mormons are grown up talking or believing and being told that, like, there's just this anti-Mormons everywhere that are making up lies.
And that's not really what happened. What happened was that Richard Dawkins was calling Joseph Smith out on the fraud that he is. And then Brandon Flowers jumped in and was saying that he wasn't a fraud and that,
exactly.
It's the most perfect thing.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
How is that being an asshole?
Oh, well, I'm saying it's
it's a lie, right?
It's like, how is it an asshole of, I think it's just asshole-ish behavior to just call someone out on their whatever personal beliefs that they happen to have. Like, that's not polite behavior. I might enjoy asshole behavior and I might be capable of it, but that's sort of like the definition of being an asshole.
That's what Richard Dawkins was there for.
Yeah, well, I don't
when you call Richard Dawkins onto a TV show, that's what they're expecting.
Well, I don't know if Brandon Flowers was.
But he did. Richard Dawkins did say afterwards. He did say, if I had known that you weren't going to be on for the entire show, I wouldn't have done any of that.
Yeah, maybe so. But anyway, I don't hate on. I still like Richard Dawkins. I just thought that was just a weird confrontation.
I'm not being an apologist. I just didn't get the same reaction out of that certain scenario.
When I saw it, I was a little more new out of Mormonism, and I may have been a little more sensitive to it. So I'm not sure. It's been a while, but anyway, but yeah. So Mormons believe that God exists. He doesn't exist in the nebulous kind of world of space, or of heaven. I mean, there is a specific place, and it's called Kolob. I forget if Kolob is the planet or if Kolob is the star.
The star.
Kolob is the star. Okay.
I thought Kolob was the planet that Heavenly Father lives on.
No, Kolob is the star, and the planet that God lives on, or the Heavenly Father, circles that star.
Oh, okay.
Hence the name, like that song Mormons listen to, if you could hide a Kolob in the twinkling of an eye.
Yeah, so
Did they
Kolob,
really get
Kolob is...
that planets circle the star, right? Like they orbit the star. Did they really get that right, or?
Well, I mean, this idea came out in like post Copernicus. So
yeah, but how would okay, never. I don't know much about Joseph Smith, so I don't know.
He was a a reader.
A reader. Okay,
so it'd be like L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard was informed, right? It's not like Joseph Smith was a fairly informed, uneducated person.
Okay.
So
is
no,
he kind of creator God in Mormon. Like, isn't there someone that doesn't live on a planet but is creator of the entire universe? Is there any kind of grand?
That's what I was trying to get at.
No, I mean that would be God. There's not some. I think it makes it sound like God can give anybody the authority to create a planet, kind of thing. Like he can be like, hey Dave, go create. Hey big black gay Dave, go create a planet, please. And you'd be like, I will.
His planet would be fabulous.
But basically, the Mormon God or Elohim did create our universe. He just happens to live on a planet in that universe.
In the universe. That's very striking, right? Because typical Christian doctrine is like he lives outside
of space and time.
I came up with something. Mm-hmm. Mormons are the fucking originators of the string theory multiverse.
Yeah, right. Because I think the belief isn't that Kolob isn't like a star you can point at. I think it is sort of like a extra dimension.
Yeah.
Like, so, so yeah, it's, again, is this noticeably more weird than believing in it's like nebulous heaven or specific planet?
I do find this a little bit weird.
Yeah, I would say this one, when it's, I guess, a good rule of thumb, the more specific a belief becomes, the more weird it gets. And weird being a very subjective term. Mm-hmm. But like, it's sort of like, I watched Going Clear last night, and I'm just like, holy shit. I mean, is this much more weird than Mormonism?
No.
Probably not objectively, but like, the story gets so specific.
Oh, it's gonna get super weird tonight. Trust me on that one. So number 8.
Number 9.
Number 9? Oh yeah, because fucking they fucked us on 7. See, the Mormons taking their 10%.
Yeah.
No,
this website is terrible.
birth.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Sorry, say that again, Corinne, please.
no virgin birth.
No, Mormons believe in a virgin birth.
No, so what Mormons do, but it was taught by Bruce R. McConkie, which,
Yes.
fun fact, I was talking about my home teacher with you guys earlier that I have a crush on. He's a McConkie. He's in the, like his nephew.
He's got a big cocky.
Anyway, Bruce R. McConkie was a heavy-hitting, like, apostle, a few decades ago that really tried to just define all the ins and outs of what was Mormon doctrine. And he wrote a book called Mormon Doctrine. Even though it was, I don't know if it was ever still considered official. Like the church tries to maintain plausible deniability, but like it was considered culturally to be the canon, because, as a compendium of all the, the just all the beliefs of Mormonism. And so he posits in Mormon doctrine that Elohim actually had physical sex with Mary.
And I was taught that as well, but but they still call it a virgin birth for some,
Oh, well, yeah, but you don't get to do that. Like, they might still say Virgin Mary, but like,
because
she wasn't.
If God has a body and he had sex with her, then that's it. That's it. Jeez. Cherries popped.
I had a quick question. So when these new developments occur and new revelations happen, like, where are you guys taught this? Are you taught in like service? Are you taught?
It comes to the bat phone first.
No, general conference usually.
Yeah, there's a twice a year a semi-annual conference where they will. It's considered, if it's said at conference, it's considered authoritative. But you're actually asking a complicated question that Mormonism is constantly grappling with. And we've kind of skirted by this a few times so far, but like, at what point can they say that wasn't true that person said? And Mormonism doesn't have a good answer for your question, but the rule of thumb, we'll say, is if it's said in general conference. The sad thing is that now that the LDS Church is becoming more global and in the information age, nobody says anything crazy anymore like that in conference. Like, they're pretty vague. Like, nobody gets into the specifics anymore about what doctrine is. It's just like, they just give pep talks. Nobody talks about
Outlook emails that we can.
Yeah, no, sadly not. It's not. There's not a great definitive source for this, because what they'll do, you'll find something like, no, this is definitive. This was in general conference 30 years ago, and they'll be like, oh yeah, but he was speaking as a man, not as a prophet. And if they like it, it was God. If they don't like it, it was their personal opinion.
Right.
So there's just no authority. There's no good answer.
But once the prophet has said something, that's it. You cannot question it. Period.
Well, you can. I mean, that's the thing. Prophets have said tons of things that Mormons don't currently believe.
No. I mean, if the current prophet says something.
Oh, the current. Sure.
There is no negotiation. That's
like,
it.
if the current prophet got up there and said, "There's only type of marriage acceptable is gay marriage," then Mormons would have to fall in line and all become gay.
Or pretend to be gay.
Yeah, well, I'm saying not become gay married. Yeah. That's that. I say that because I like to ask Mormons that. So if you believe, if the prophet asks you, here's your faith test. If the prophet asks you to get married, gay married, would you do it?
You have one more, right?
Number 10.
God's true nature.
That's kind of hitting on the same.
That's what we covered.
It shows hands holding a earth in its hands.
That's we covered that where we covered that where God has a body, God and Jesus Christ are separate, and the Holy Ghost is separate. The Holy Spirit doesn't have a body because he doesn't have a body so that he can dwell within all of us. Isn't that fun? Does that make you feel good?
No,
does that make you guys feel?
I feel violated.
What can I do, guys? What's it going to take for me to convince you to become Mormon after we've read these top 10
dick
beliefs?
Massage.
That's it?
If you give me a handy. Give me a handy, and that's it.
And you'll be Mormon?
I'll be Mormon, yeah.
Okay.
So quick Mormon question. Out of curiosity, how long from being recruited from the door-to-door stuff to being revealed to know these deep doctrinal truths? Like, what's the average time period? Is it like 4 years? 4 months?
That's hard because there's not there's not like a definitive resource for how to, well, maybe there is. So to get baptized, you have to take 6 lessons. I believe if it may have changed, but, when I was a missionary, I had to do 6 lessons. And those were pretty basic stuff. They'd cover the basics like God has a body, they'd cover the basics of spiritual, degrees of glory, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to like getting really weird, like when you're first baptized, your first year in church, you have to do what's called a gospel principles class for Sunday school. And, you'll cover it there. But the problem is if you're a convert and didn't go through the seminary program, where seminary is where you take classes every day or like a few times a week. And, like you do it before school, or if you live in Utah, you do it during school, 1 hour a day.
They don't offer seminary. They didn't offer seminary up here.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, but like, so people outside of Utah, they do it in the morning, and that's where like they have to cover so much material. That's where I learned most of the weird stuff was in seminary as a child. But otherwise, a lot of converts just never, that's why people ask like, how is it that there's black people that are Mormon, And I'm like, that stuff doesn't come up, all that weird stuff, this particular weird stuff. And then after a while, let's say when you're really emotionally invested in it, you no longer get fazed by the weird stuff.
I just can't relate to that thinking on that level. So for me, I find it super strange that anybody would believe any of it, and especially like black people would, even any kind of Christianity, that black people would believe in it. It's like, for me, it's like so
sure,
obvious that.
Yeah, but but true, I understand that, but I think about that and I'm like, well, that makes all the white people sound like a bunch of assholes, because it's just as it should be just as offensive for white people as it is for black people.
Well, no, it should, but what I mean by
again, you could say, how could any woman be religious?
No, and it's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth. Yeah. And for what I mean by the black people, it's like before they were taken from Africa to brought over here, they would have had their own set of rituals and beliefs that they believed in. You know what I mean? Like Christianity wasn't their original religion.
Yeah.
So this one was forced upon them. But they're some of the most strident protectors of Christianity in North America, when it was used as justification to steal them, bring them here, beat them into conversion and slavery. Right?
Yeah, I think, sure. I mean, I guess that's a kind of, what's the word? That's an interesting kind of, it's an irony, but, I think we all were forced. Religion was forced upon all of us at one point or another. And so, I don't know.
More recently, because if you look at us as Europeans, it was forced upon us, a lot longer ago than it was. Like slavery wasn't that long ago.
I guess I think it's an interesting observation you're making. But I think it's just, far enough removed, I think, from the lived experience of being religious, that I think most religious people would see that as just splitting hairs. I think it's hard for that. Yeah, I think because, I mean, they just don't, when you believe in something, you just don't think about things in that way. Right. And even
Native Americans didn't cling on to it, and Canadian First Nations didn't cling to it like the African Americans have.
Yeah, well, that's because it wasn't forced on them the same way.
In Canada it was.
Yeah, no, because we gave them the reservations, and I'm not saying it wasn't forced.
Yeah, but you guys didn't have the residential schools there like we had here.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I'm not.
That's a different topic. It's a different topic.
Yeah, anyway.
Okay.
It's weird. I don't want to sound like I'm defending Mormonism, but.
Oh, you totally were. No, I get what you're saying. But for me, I've just always thought like, and I guess it's different for me looking at it too, as somebody that wasn't really ever.
So for me, Dave, it was, I totally get you. It was a later thought for me as a black person to think about that, the slavery and Christianity link, Like that came for me much later. And when I look at that now, when I look at my my relatives and all that, and them being Christian, I shake my head and say like, why the fuck?
Yeah, listen to these two white assholes fucking trying to talk about black people and Christianity.
Yeah, it's just my personal experience. I think it's like, I never thought about that. I never thought about it that way until much later after my deconversion.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is thinking about it that way sort of requires not believing. Like,
yeah,
because if otherwise, if you're a believer, you say, hey, this religion was forced upon your ancestors at some point. You'd be like, oh, well, that's a bummer about that, but hey, it's worked out because at least now I have the truth. So there's one silver lining, you know? So it's like, if you believe it's true, then it sort of becomes a Machiavellian ends justify the means.
So for me, like, obviously black people are super mad about slavery and they have a right to be, but the book justifies the slavery.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's another thing. Most people aren't familiar with the Bible. So that's another thing. Like, they don't, like, anytime I bring up those issues with Christians, they just say, well, I'll have to, I'd have to read it and really look into it to be able to have an opinion. And I'm like, okay. Well, and they're not going to do that,
Yeah.
Because,
I think it's also the a la carte type of Christianity that you find in a lot of people. They pick the good pieces that they agree with, and all the bad things they don't agree with, they throw to the waste. And so when you get to that point, to the a la carte point, you really don't, you're just there more for things that make you feel good. And it's an emotional response and you're not thinking about it logically at that point, I think.
So I think if it doesn't, on that note, I think for believers, when something doesn't make you feel good, and let's say it's there in black and white, you would just say, you dismiss it and say that, well, there's clearly just something I'm not understanding, so I'll shelve this for some later date and it's never resolved. But no, I think that's great that Christians are able to dismiss the evils of the Bible. It's at least better than embracing it.
Okay, guys, I have a question for you.
Okay, I've got an answer.
75 million years ago, what did you think was going on in the planet? Dinosaurs?
Oh, God, why are you doing this to me? 75 million? I'm going to go with, dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are happening. That was a T-Rex era.
David?
I concur, dinosaurs.
Edward?
Xenu.
Whoa,
Edward's got the correct answer. Anybody that thinks that there was dinosaurs on planet Earth 75 million years are what I like to call wrong. Okay? So, 75 million years ago, there was a intergalactic coalition that was led by a man named Xenu. Inside this coalition, there was 79 planets. Each of the planets had about 178 billion people on average. He wanted to get the populations down. So he wanted to get rid of these people, basically. So he hatched a plan. With the help of some renegades, Xenu defeated his opponents, the good people, and their loyal officers. Then with the help of psychiatrists and the media, he called hundreds of billions in for tax audits. When they got to the place for I can hardly do this with a straight face. I swear. So when he called the people in for their tax audits, they were injected with alcohol and glycol in their lungs to paralyze them. Then Xenu and the renegades put them in DC-8 airplanes, which is World War II era airplanes that were fitted with rockets instead of propellers.
Okay, go on.
I'm turning the page.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, so the galaxy that he was the overlord of included Earth. So they flew them to Earth. When they arrived on the planet, they stacked them around volcanoes. Xenu himself then lowered H-bombs into the volcanoes and detonated them, killing everyone. Xenu knew he had Sorry.
Xenu sounds like one of those like villains in the James Bond movie that can't just fucking kill someone.
Yeah, it's like very elaborate.
Give him cyanide like everybody else. Why did you have to like go through this complicated process? Go ahead.
It gets crazier, by the way. So Xenu knew everyone had a soul. Xenu had to make sure that those souls wouldn't come back for a vengeance. Well, the hundreds of billions of souls were blowing around in nuclear winds. He set a trap. Electrical beams like the sticky fly tape. Force fields that pushed them into packages of souls. He called them clusters.
That actually answered my original question. Like, why didn't he just kill him normally? I guess that's part of the narrative, is that he had to kill him in a specific way so that he could capture them.
He could capture them and get
souls.
them in clusters.
Okay.
Soul clusters. Soul clusters. So all of this took place on Hawaii and Las Palmas in the Canary Islands. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sure nobody from the Canary Islands is ever going to listen to this, but if you did, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your hometown. So Xenu had these clusters in boxes and took them to cinemas to be brainwashed or hypnotically implanted. They were forced to watch 3D videos of horrific acts for the next 36 days. These acts included torture, dissection, and crucifixion. They were subject to sexual perversion, motion sickness, and auto accidents. Like, auto accidents? Really? You're gonna rape their bums and you're gonna crucify them and dissect them, and you're gonna throw auto wrecks in there. It's crazy shit. Okay. Anyways.
Cover another basis. Okay.
Yeah. They were also shown false pictures and told that they were God, Christ, and Satan, all to render them helpless so they would not return and avenge themselves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, after all the fuckery the clusters went through, they were confused. Their sense of individualism was gone. At this point, there were only a few living bodies on Earth. And the clusters possessed them like parasitic demons. As for Xenu, the loyal officers' families, the ones that he had killed at the beginning of the story, you heard about the good people and the loyal officers. As for the loyal officers and the families, they fucked him up. They imprisoned him on the top of a mountain on Earth, kept there by a force field powered by eternal batteries, and where he remains alive today. So, anybody want to go fucking hunting for Xenu? Because apparently he's on a mountain, alive today.
Wait, on Earth?
On Earth.
Okay. Okay.
Trapped in a forest field.
I can think of many points for advertisers to buy commercial break space, because all the fade outs and dramatic pauses that would happen with the story would totally be profitable to the networks. So I can definitely. Is there more?
There is more. The clusters known as thetans possess us all. And the only way to become clear of them is to exercise all of the body thetans. I don't know why in his handwriting he called them thetans and then it switched to body thetans, but I'm just going with L. Ron Hubbard.
They're body thetans when they're inside your body.
Oh, and they're just thetans when they're outside. Yeah. Okay.
I thought it was continuity producer.
Yeah. So, and the only way to exercise them is by spending thousands of dollars, to become clear.
Oh. Yeah. And yeah, so so the religion is about taking these classes and going up in these stages, as high as levels, achievement levels, and that you get more information each time and you become more clear.
And not only that, but you gain capabilities like you can move shit with your mind and you can levitate.
Level 4
you can, read minds and stuff. Yeah.
And then so like and I've explained this to Edward on a bonus episode. So if you're on level 5, the guys on level 6 will think that you're fucking magic, and they'll ask you, "Are you magic?" And you're like, "Fuck yeah, I'm level 6." So then when the dummy on level 5 gets to level 6, and the guy that he was sitting beside on level 5 says, "What's it like? You're on level 6. Can you move shit with your mind?" He's like, "Fuck yeah, I can." And that's the perpetual motion of this.
Do you think that was like, it's so convoluted. Do you think it was designed in that mind to?
No, I just think
that?
he's a fucking terrible storyteller, and that he's like.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So, and the other thing that I wanted to say about like the last little bit, and then we can discuss this whole thing is, according to L. Ron Hubbard, the only reason why people believe in God, Jesus, and Satan is because of the implant films and the body thetans that were from 75 million years ago. But Christianity doesn't promote 75 million years ago, right? So Christianity itself. So like just on this one point, as an American, like most of the population of America is Christian, and I'm sure that most of the Scientologists were Christian at one time. Just on this one point, it should fall on your face for them, right? Because he's saying 75 million years ago, they were showing films and pictures of Christ when Christ was 2,500 years ago, according to Christian belief. So it should fall on its face right there.
But I think,
well, listen, if you got past, I think there's so many levels of that story that if you were to make it past those levels of that story of like
they wait until you're like level 6
tortured demons. Like I'm saying, like I'd almost be annoyed if that was your hang up in the end. If you believed everything else, you're like, wait a minute, 75 million years? That's ridiculous. I'd just be like, no. You don't get to get hung up on that.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest though. If you went to somebody that was in Scientology and they were level 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5, and you presented this to them, they wouldn't have a fucking clue of what you were talking about.
I don't know what level you learn of.
I think it's like either 6 or clear.
Okay.
Now,
so
would they
like
want?
The last bit.
Would they want to would they hear this and want to get would this be an incentive?
No, they
for
would
them
attack you. They would say, "What is your crime? What is your crime?" And your crime would be that you're gay.
Oh, I don't understand that. Sorry, I hear what you're saying. It seems like
Scientologists believe, or they've taught in the past, that if you were to attack Scientology, it's because you are a criminal in some way. You have these thetans in you that are really getting to you, and so you're a bad person essentially. And so, if you need to criticize their faith, that means that something really has a hold of you. I don't know that they're explicitly that homophobic.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but okay. Which I should say, if you or any of your listeners are interested in hearing just more about Scientology, if you're not familiar with the podcast, Oh No with Ross and Carrie, it's a really well produced podcast. They converted to Mormonism, for example, in their show, and they talk about it, and they convert. It's amazing. And I think their plug, the show is like, we investigate these claims so you don't have to. And so they converted to Scientology. They converted to Scientology. It was like a 7-episode, show on Scientology that like culminates in like them finally being discovered. But it's, spoiler alert, but I would highly recommend you guys look into Oh No with Ross and Carrie. And I would actually advise you, some of you, to be introduced to them by finding their old Mormon episodes, because those were gold. Anyway, they get into that as well. And then of course Going Clear, the HBO show, if you have access to it, is great.
It's brilliant. One of the things that I noticed in reading this is he's not very he has the imagination of a 7-year-old, and not in like an adult. Like obviously, 7-year-olds have a much more wild imagination than an adult, but an adult would be thinking about more like grounded, or if you were going to tell a lie or a story, you would try to make it seem at least believable. Where this is just crazy. Like in order to kill people, you had to fucking trick them into coming to do a tax audit. And then when they got there, the psychiatrists and the media inject their lungs with alcohol and glycol. And then, when they're paralyzed, instead of killing them, you pack them on to DC-8, World War II era planes that are fitted with rockets that you blast off to planet Earth, then you don't just put them in the volcano so they just melt. You stack them around the volcano.
So was this conceived as science fiction, science fiction or religion?
This is the story of Xenu.
In case you guys didn't know, L. Ron Hubbard holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the most books written by any human being, or written and published, which is at about 1,000. And so he was a pulp fiction author, and he just pumped out these sci-fi novels. You know, and I think you got paid, you know, like per page or something. So it was like, I don't know how it worked exactly, but it just incentivized the way the pay structure worked is that it incentivized just writing, like just getting it out there. So he has just written so much science fiction that, and it's like bad science fiction. So
yeah, definitely sounds like it.
It sort of, it makes sense in the context of him being a pulp fiction.
And he was also quoted as saying, "If you want to get rich, start a religion."
Yeah, Going Clear blew my mind.
I've watched
it.
It's crazy.
Shitty of a person he was.
That he's nothing compared to David Miscavige.
They both are. Yeah, I guess shitty in different ways. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, Miscavige is like an evil cyborg.
I haven't listened to watched the last 25 minutes of the show, so it's getting more into David Miscavige, and I haven't. I started last night. Knowing what essentially you guys said, you're discussing Scientology. I prep, guys. I care.
For me, I find it very interesting that, even more than Mormonism, you can draw a line back to the beginning of Scientology, and I would think that people would think that it was crazier, L. Ron Hubbard, to believe a religion that was started by a science fiction writer who tried to make a self-help series with his Dianetics that then turned into a religion.
Yeah, but they just do what they do is a really good job of covering that up and just obfuscating it. They just build this cult of personality around L. Ron Hubbard, and Mormons do the same with Joseph Smith. So I know how this is possible. Joseph Smith, his behavior is in black and white. He was a terrible person.
Yeah.
But all you have to do is you get people to think that anything that is negative about your dear leader is a lie. Mm-hmm. And even if you see it in black and white, you just realize no, this can't be true. And, you're just slowly indoctrinated into this. And, that's why, you keep leveling up and things get more and more weird. But by then it's you're so invested that you don't have the luxury of so easily quitting. And it should be pointed out that,
what is it about, say, somebody like me that looks at that and says, that's absolute fucking bullshit, and somebody that looks at Scientology and gets behind it or gets involved with it? What do you think? What do you think the difference
complicated.
is? Because it's not like I'm like a fucking scientist or I'm super smart.
I think there's a
it's really complicated, Dave. I'm not gonna say anything insightful, but maybe it's the memes that go around with that type of religion that I have no idea. It's something where I'm actually quite baffled by it. But people fall for it. You do know that's the case, right?
I think it starts. I think there's a lot of factors, and I think one of the biggest factors that you see when you start out in a religion is community, because loneliness we're not engineered to be alone, right? It's not in our DNA. And so religion offers us a tribe, and we see this thing first, I think, by and large. We just have this need to be a part of something. And it is not unusual that the price you pay to be a part of a group is accepting a certain set of beliefs, right? And they don't have to be outlandish. Those set of beliefs can be they can just be a belief in humanitarian aid, or whatever it is. But I'm just saying that's the what usually makes a group cohesive is it's usually supported by some kind of belief system. So this promise is comforting, and then then I also think our lizard brains are trained to want to have answers and want to find pattern, and that we're afraid above all of death. And so I think religion offers us a kind of a salve against this fear. And I really think we are naturally inclined to want to believe, just as a species. And so I think that when people don't, it's hard to say what it's just the ingredients were a little different. Like I imagine my daughter will grow up not being a believer, but I'll have to really go out of my way to prevent that. Some people have something in them, I'm sure, that they're just naturally very skeptical. I think that's a factor, but that's a factor. Like I was always a skeptic. I've always been a skeptical person, right? So, but I was still pretty Mormon. I just compartmentalized it. So, I'm not sure I answered the question exactly, because there's not a one answer. It's just, there's just a lot of reasons. Okay. And I really, like, again, I hate to sound like the apologist, but I try to really be understanding of the fact that people believe things based on faith, myself included. And, I recognize that people can have absurd beliefs that I think are objectively absurd and still be hyper intelligent and hypercritical.
So I have another question now, if you don't mind. How do you think that conversation goes when they finally make it to the level and they're like, come into this room. Okay. So, sit down. I know you thought this was about self-help and about, taking the psychiatrist out of the scenario, and we're going to stop drug addiction, and there'll be no need for prisons because Scientologists are going to save the world. But there's an added feature to this. So 75 million years ago, an intergalactic being named Xenu.
I think I can speak through experience how that feels, and I think Ed can as well. When I went through the temple, did the Mormon temple ceremony, I was promised that when I went through the temple, these great truths would be revealed to me, and I went in fully expecting to go to the temple and leave a better person and leave having some very special knowledge, as was told. And I went, and all I knew is that it was really weird, extremely weird. And it disturbed me. It disturbed me quite a bit, actually. And that's the experience with most people. And that I left confused, a little scared, but I was already groomed to believe that the problem wasn't with the temple ceremony, it was with me. And I had to open up my heart to whatever these truths were. And so I saw this confusing temple ceremony as a challenge. Like, it was now my mission to understand this. And so I think that's how it goes. And like it was hard for me. And I know some Mormons that went to the temple. I've heard of stories where they're just like, this is crazy. And then that is it for them. But that's rare. That is a rare exception. Mostly by the time you get to the temple, you're ready to commit, and you just kind of power through it.
But I also think I agree with you very sincerely. The temple ceremony was crazy. But I think it's, like you said, it's the layers of nuance over years and decades before you get there, that little by little you are so used to, if something doesn't make sense to you, pushing it aside and you put it, decompartmentalize it, put it away, and then you think, am I the only one that's struggling with this? And if I am, it's something I did wrong.
Could there be something in our behavior that likes this sort of gradual revelation of ideas that builds and builds and builds? Like, we see it with television and our serials and stuff like that, where we're stuck to the television and we want to know what's happens next, and we want to be revealed on the next insight on what's going on. To me, what I hear you guys talk about is something that gets revealed over the course of a year, 2 years, a decade, that's some kind of divine revelation that's supposed to be.
I think there's something, for sure, David, think there's something to that challenge of, like, you got some key, and at some point you're going to unlock a box, and you're going to have this aha moment. And I'll tell you something, I had those aha moments. that like these transcendent emotional experiences where you may not actually be like learning anything, but you feel like you've taken a drug and you just feel this pouring of emotion and everything feels great. And you just know that God is communicating right to your soul. Like it's you feel euphoric, right? And you know, you falsely attribute it to God, but I'm saying, so the experiences that that people have, they might, are, you know, they're real experiences. And so when you have that strong emotional experience that is like, I don't get those as a non-religious person like I did as a spiritual person, that like religion has had centuries and centuries to like develop the ingredients to making us feel a certain way. And like, so you feel I would feel these feelings at the temple while hearing a bunch of absurd shit. And so I would just associate it like this absurd thing and this emotion, right? And that happens with Scientology as well. And, I mean, it's like, not only are we going to typically believe what's in our best interest, what we believe is in our best interest to believe, just regardless of the facts, we're also going to believe based on how we feel. And so, you know, like I said, religion kind of creates these experiences that were beautiful, like on their own, beautiful, like they feel good, like they're beautiful in the same way that it's beautiful to maybe drop acid or something. Not, I haven't done that, but I'm saying it just feels really good.
I think I would say that I'm looking at it from a skeptic's point of view, and I'm looking at it thinking that not all, but a good portion of those people spend $100,000 to get there, and they just don't want to look like a fucking ass. So they're just like, all right, whatever. And they just continue on with status quo.
So, yeah. I mean, well, again, that's one, I think to my point we're making, that we don't want to believe what's against our best interest to believe. And so what religions usually do is try to create investments. They're not always money, but those investments exist. So those investments might be family. And a lot of them are like religions talk about sacrifice a lot, which is stupid. Like sacrifice isn't a good thing. Sacrifice is a bad thing. But religion tells you that sacrifice is a good thing, because what it does is the more that you give up, the more that you suffer for your beliefs. You don't want to invalidate that suffering by leaving your religion, because if you leave your religion, suddenly all that pain that you experienced, all that hard work, all that money, all the time, all the sacrificed relationships, or, you know, everything, whatever it was, you name it, suddenly it was meaningless, right? And we don't want to accept that. Is horrifying to accept, right?
Scientology is the worst for separating families. The worst.
It's up there. It's up. Jehovah's Witnesses are pretty good at it, as well. Mormons are high on that scale of being bad at that.
Scientology will put you on a boat and send you fucking.
Oh, yeah, they have those like weird camps that they send you to. So like all I'm saying is I can see how it happens, and I personally haven't been able to see a correlation with how intelligent someone is and how likely they are to see through that bullshit.
And that's why I preface it by saying I am not like an extraordinary intelligent human being.
Sure. And I guess I'm not even saying that you're necessarily saying that, but that's kind of the question that's just looming always when we're thinking about this, when we're asking ourselves this, when I'm asking myself, like, how did I do this? And the reality is like, I don't even regret that I believed that. How can I regret it? I didn't see any way around not believing it sooner. Like, I don't know what would have happened.
I'm just, okay. When I look at it on its face value, I don't have to, just the story itself of Mormonism, Scientology, Christianity, I look at it and I naturally know in my head that it's bullshit. I just don't understand where natural skepticism you know what I mean? Like why is it so plain for some and not so plain for others is what I meant by that.
And you've also at this point in your life, and as I think all of us here have embraced a skeptical worldview, and so we're going to dismiss everything almost to a fault. Probably sometimes I dismiss things that might be true because they kind of smack of pseudoscience or something. I lean towards disbelief as a rule, right? Yeah. Where I think there's just a lot of people out there that are a little open. And I'll tell you this, which is probably hard to imagine. I think scenarios exist where every one of us could become a believer again, despite and accepting that it is 100% false. Like there have been people that are just like us. Yeah, like they're of course, but I'm just saying, like it's not outside the realm of possibility. Right? Like we have, in some ways, we have so little control over what we actually believe.
I guess, but in my mind right now, I'm thinking that shit better be testable. Does anybody have closing thoughts on this?
I don't think it matters how crazy the beliefs are. There's something in us that allows us to believe it. So we have to dig deeper and find out what that is, what is appealing to our nature. If there's some kind of, there's trends or whatever that's going on within our nature, within the culture that is allowing us to sidestep our logic, as Dave is saying, like, how can someone believe this?
I think that stems from our childhood, and when you're really young and impressionable, this crap is pumped down your throat, and fed to you. Then, as you grow up, it becomes more easy to digest. But like that stems from when we were, our species was young, and everything frightened us, and we had to make up explanations for what those were.
And I think my final thought on this, that's going to maybe a little too weighty for a final thought, but wrapping this up is probably still a good idea, is that there is no objective meaning. And so I accept a lot of things based on faith. It doesn't make them illogical that I accept them on faith, but still, universal human rights is something, there's no objective, there's nothing to give that objective meaning, right? I personally believe that I have faith that the world is a better place with universal human rights, but there's nothing that makes that true.
Well, there's nothing with that you can say that evolutionary, when we were smaller tribes, not killing each other was for the betterment of the tribes, and that has just carried forth, right?
Sure.
Not stealing each other's stuff when we live in a small tribe keeps us from fighting and killing each other.
Yes, I understand that yes, I can cite reasons why maybe certain values might perpetuate a safer species, but still, I'm going to have to rest on something that I have faith in, because so what? Maybe I have faith that a safe place is better than a not safe place. But I'm saying there's still belief there. Again, no objective meaning. So sometimes I guess the question I ask myself is, how far have I come? Is my faith that far? Sometimes I wonder if my faith isn't as far away from the faith of the people that believe in Xanu. I wonder if I zoom out enough, if some alien overlords are looking upon the value system of our species, if they would find it silly to think that I, this believer in universal human rights, would be making fun of somebody that believes in Xanu.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you. Sorry. I would say that like your last example of faith is more like an educated trust. It's like saying that I have faith that when I come into my living room, I sit down on the chair, it's not going to fall apart.
Yeah, I'm differentiating them because I'm saying the difference is it's not illogical or it's not irrational. There is some faith involved, but the difference between me and Xanu, I believe in Xanu, is that's an irrational belief. Okay, yeah. So something can require a certain amount of faith, but still be rational thought.
Okay,
Right,
and
so-
the problem that I'm having with is the word, like, I guess where you would say it's faith, I would say it's an experience of trust, or it's trust, not exactly faith. I guess I would say from experience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't. I don't want to get too caught up in the kind of.
No, I'm just saying from
wording,
my
but yeah.
my side. Yeah.
I get. What I'm saying is that ultimately, if we really scrutinize our beliefs, we will ultimately hit a point where we have to rest on a belief, and I try to keep. All I'm saying is that I try to have a certain amount of empathy to the people that have faith in absurd things. And one vehicle by which I have that empathy is that I understand that I too have beliefs, and they may not be irrational, but they're still beliefs. And maybe it's an unnecessary exercise for me to embark in, but I still like to remind myself that I'm not as awesome. I'm not as awesome as I might think I am when I'm comparing myself to the Scientologist. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure, you're a lot better.
Okay,
so,
fair enough. Well, I'll give you this. I'll just give you this.
Yeah.
You won.
So, go ahead and pimp your shit, man.
Oh yeah. So, check out again www.poorlysummarized.com. We're at Poor Summary. I'm personally, my Twitter is at probably for sale. I am fairly active on Twitter, and I really like people who engage me on Twitter. And I am confident that if anybody listening that's still listening would like our show. We put a lot of work into it, and I think though it's not a atheist show, we certainly have a skeptical bent, and I think a lot of atheists would find a lot of overlap in the worldview of our podcast. So thanks guys, thanks for having me on.
Right on, man.
Thank
for
you
coming.
for coming.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure.
Okay.
This was the Wayward Atheist podcast. Follow us on Spreaker, Spreaker.com/waywardatheists. You can email us at waywardatheistpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at waywardatheists and on Facebook.com/waywardatheists. If you enjoy our content, feel free to leave us a review on iTunes, and feel free to support us at patreon.com/waywardatheists.